Welcome back to On Texas Football's Wednesday night Longhorn Livestream. I'm your host, Amanda Atwell, joined with CJ Vogel and Jeff Howe. How are we doing tonight, guys? It's hump day.
Wonderful.
Couple more days till some more Texas football. Hopefully better Texas football.
We only have 5 more home games, so I'm pumped.
Yeah, one's in Dallas too. So make the most of it while you can.
Yeah, that makes me sad. This home slate, I feel like this year was just probably the worst one I've seen in quite some time as far as just quality of games you get at home. I mean, A&M and Arkansas will be fun, but wasn't super impressed with UTEP and San Jose State.
No, bad year for the home games, but hey, you only get so many, and you're back this weekend.
That Vanderbilt game could be a little more important than we initially thought.
That's a good point. Yeah, that one could be more. I'm kind of glad they're at home this year, honestly, with how Diego Pavia looks. So a little bit better off there, at least. But we got a lot to talk about today before Sam Houston State this Saturday. A couple updates in the NCAA transfer portal that we'll chat about. If you have any questions, make sure to get them in. Super chats will jump to the top of our list. So make sure to get in all of those questions. So first off the top, we have some new NCAA transfer portal news. The committee decided to eliminate the spring football transfer portal window. So it's essentially going from a 2 transfer portal window to a single 10-day transfer portal window in the winter. So, Jeff, I know you had some interesting takes on this and how previously both of these transfer portal windows impact Texas. So I'll let you take it away on that.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be interesting because we've seen Texas pick up some really important players in that post-spring window. Like you look at this year's roster, like Jack Injuries, Murad Watson, Mason Shipley, Matthew Caldwell. Like after spring practice was over, you picked up some really important transfers. So I think it's just going to have to be a little bit of readjusting. I mean, CJ, you're constantly readjusting, recruiting priorities and NIL budgets and all kinds of stuff like that. So I just think it's recalibrating for Texas a little bit. I do think for the players, there's going to have to be something post-spring where, there's some kind of out because we know how much things can change, but maybe there's not. But I don't know that I don't know that this changes things drastically, but Sark and company do have to think a little bit different. Whereas in the past, it might have been, well, we don't really like what's here at fill in the blank position we need. Well, let's just wait till the spring window. You don't have that luxury anymore.
Yeah, you don't. And, there's some key dates to go over. It's a 10-day window that will start January 2nd and go all the way through January 11th. And there will be playoff games played during this time. And so you're likely to come across, one of those Malik Murphy cases. Fortunately, there is a 5-day grace period for after your final game. You could play theoretically January 19th, right, in Miami for the national championship game. You would then have a 5-day window for either one of those competing teams to enter the portal for prospects looking to enter the portal as well. That entire month will be a live period, so prospects will be able to move around on campuses, be in contact with coaches, etc. But yeah, I think it's a good move. You needed just one. It was too much of a mess to have, college coaches worried about recruiting and signing day and, the wrapping up of your team and exit meetings. There was too much going on. And then, of course, with spring football and getting on the road with recruiting as well, to free that up in the spring, I would imagine most of these college coaches are sitting around saying, thank God. So that's where things are. 10-day period, January 2nd to 11th. And again, a 5-day window if your team plays all the way into the semifinals or the national championship.
Now, the thing this does have the chance to do, this could give us spring games back. I say could because I do think as we go further along in this deal, that Cisco's reading my mind right there. As we get further along in this deal, I think the college offseason is going to be structured and look more similar to an NFL style offseason where you've got OTAs and mini camps and then your training camp. But I think this isn't going to stop tampering because the toothpaste is out of the tube on that deal. But I think it'll curb it a little bit just because you're not going to have to worry about going through spring practice and, hey, this sophomore corner looks really good. Do I have to worry about school X coming in and poaching him after spring ball if word gets out that he's having really good practices? So I think that's one positive, I think, is it's going to curb that part of it.
Yeah, it should, in theory, lock your roster in, but guys can still leave school in the summer. They'll just be ineligible, right? They won't have that luxury of playing right away. So, yes, I'm with you. It should be one of those things where, that's your bunch basically locked in after that portal window in January.
Yeah, I think it'll definitely lend to making it just a little bit less of a chaotic experience, especially for coaches. You kind of know what you're getting after that winter window, which I think will be beneficial. We'll see what's to come of that in the coming days. But on Texas's radar, Sam Houston State, the get right game, the one where we really need to see some progress in this team. We heard a little bit from the Sam Houston State coach today, Phil Longo presser. He was asked about catching Texas at the right time, essentially. Is this the best possible time Sam Houston State could catch Texas? I'm sure we all have some opinions on that. I don't think it really matters what time they catch Texas at. I mean, it'll probably end in the same result, but could be a little bit more skewed one way or the other. But here's what he had to say to that.
What I told the team was we have to prepare to expect Texas's very best on Saturday. And I think anytime you prepare for anything less than that, you're doing yourself a disservice as a team, as a staff. And so we are going to look at it as if Texas is going to hit things on all cylinders, and these guys are going to play well on both sides of the ball, and we're going to see their best, and that's what we're preparing for, and that's what we need to expect. And then anything less is what happens on Saturday, but that's what we're looking at. This is an exceptionally talented team that held Ohio State to 14 points, and they're very good on special teams. They aren't extravagant on either side of the ball. They don't need to be. They're so talented. They can just strap it up and go play football, and they do enough to keep you guessing. You've got to be prepared for them. But there are a lot of individual matchups that we know we've got to be able to play and win some one-on-one battles to give ourselves an opportunity against Texas.
It's a little bit different level of energy from that interview we saw last week with the head coach. But what do you think about what he said? I don't think he's overlooking Texas or thinking that they're catching Texas at the right time, fortunately.
I think he understands what's going to happen. The big key, and I think UTEP in the same sense was pretty pleased with the performance in the first half. Keeping it close is basically what you can ask for. Realistically, I don't think a school like UTEP or Sam Houston State can expect to win this game just because of the talent disparity. But, go out there, play hard, put something good on tape, and hopefully, it inspires something in the rest of your team for the rest of the season. But, that's why Texas schedules these games ultimately, is to, improve their record, get right on their own end. But ultimately, just go play hard and put something nice on tape.
You remember all that stuff we said last week about Scotty Walden, a coach on the rise in the UTEP program? Maybe it's going somewhere and it's a difficult job. Right now, I can't say any of that about Phil Longo and Sam Houston because they're starting from like ground level. They got 65 new players in there, gutted by the transfer portal when Casey Keeler came in and took the Temple job. So, yeah, a lot of work done. They're not playing a home schedule this year, because Bauer Stadium in Huntsville is under construction, so they're playing at the Houston Dynamo Stadium. That's where their home games are in Houston, which I think is probably about an hour and a half away from campus. So it's a weird year for them, but yeah, it's I think CJ hit it on the head. Phil Longo knows what his team is getting into. And look, this is a Sam Houston team that's 0-3, and they've got 17-point losses to Western Kentucky, UNLV, and Hawaii. If you can't get right this week, then we're probably having very different conversations about this team come Sunday morning.
What score do you think would be a failure after this week for Texas? I mean, obviously, it was a win last week, but it was still considered a failure. You think the same score, or do you think it would have to be even more of a lopsided score would still be considered a failure?
That's a really interesting question. If you don't break 30 against Sam Houston State, for me, that's a failure of a day.
Yeah.
Can't break 30 points. Texas didn't do it against UTEP. I thought it was a failure of a day, obviously. Sam Houston State has a worse defense than UTEP. Now, what would be a successful day is anything in the 40s. Just a continued ability to score points drive after drive after drive, something Texas hasn't done the entire season, especially when needing to go 50 yards or more, right? So it sounds minimal. And coming into the year, if you told me that Texas would only score 42 points against UTEP, I'd say, ew, what went wrong? Why is that the outcome? But as we sit here going into week 4 saying 42 would be good, that's kind of how things have evolved so far.
I can't even give you a score. Like, I mean, and I don't say that like doom and gloom. I mean, I just, my bar for this offense is so low at this point. Like if they just end every drive with a kick on Saturday, that means no turnovers and no turnovers on downs, then I'll say, yeah, that was a successful outing for the offense, which probably means you scored in the 35, 38 point range, which I mean, I don't know. You're to get to the 40 plus range, you're going to have to get one of two things, and probably both non-offensive touchdowns, and you're going to have to hit some explosives. Can this offense do that consistently? And non-offensive touchdowns is something you can't count on. So I have no idea the defense will be fine. Like there's no doubt in my mind that the defense will be fine. I just have no idea what to expect from this offense other than I hope to see that they just, can maximize their possessions.
I got to say, if I wake up on Sunday morning and see that, because I unfortunately cannot watch the game live as it goes, and see that as Texas scores under 40 points, I'm going to be very hesitant to rewatch this game. I might just have to enjoy myself on vacation and not rewatch this one. But we do have some exciting visitors coming this week, and we'll hear about who's going to be at this game. So hopefully it is a good performance for those visitors after we hear from our friends at South Point.
That's right. Hey, Texas football fans, score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock, including the all-new 2025 Ram 1500. Get the real deal today and drive away in an all-new Ram that's proven to last. Plus, you can get employee incentive pricing. That's right. You pay what their employees pay. That is the real deal. So score big today at South Point Dodge. Come see them off I-35 in South Austin or at southpointdodge.com. Get to the point at South Point Dodge.
Thank you so much, Jeff. All right, get your questions in. Once again, super chats. Jump to the top of the list. But CJ, you said we have a couple visitors coming into town this weekend to watch, hopefully, a game where Texas actually gets right and they can be impressed. Night game, fun atmosphere at the very least. Everything's set up for this to go well. So hopefully it does, especially in terms of recruits.
Yeah. The first night game of the year, Texas will be hosting a number of guys committed in the class right now. It's going to be Derek Cooper, the 5-star running back out of Chaminade in Florida. It's his official visit. He'll be coming in. Samari Matthews, the 4-star cornerback from North Carolina, he'll be on campus as well. And then Corey Wells, who Auburn's making a big push there, and James Johnson, both of them will be on campus this weekend for the Texas Longhorns. In the class of 2027, there's a couple of really big names coming in. On the offensive line, we'll start there. Brian Swanson out of South Oak Cliff, really talented, really impressed at the June Elite Camp earlier in the summer. He will be back on campus, as will Ishmael Kamara, my favorite offensive lineman in the class of 27 in the state of Texas. He will be making it to campus as well. He's out of Gilmer. And then two other names to keep an eye on, Eli Johnson out of Cibolo Steel. He'll be making the short trip up from San Antonio, as will Tate Ellis coming down from Crowley. So a pretty in-depth group of guys. And, of course, it's only Wednesday. There will be plenty more, probably upwards of 30, 40 guys coming in for this game under the lights to kind of show off all the bells and the whistles and drones and whatnot of what Texas will have in store for this weekend.
And hopefully there's some bells and whistles on the offense this time that can actually be shown off as well. I would hate to see a bunch of sidearms thrown into the dirt to show off to these guys this weekend. So hopefully it's a good one. It's a get right game. And there's a lot of areas that obviously need improvement. So I have a couple written down, and I want you guys to rank what's most important to you, and you can add anything in that you would like to add in. So the passing game, the run game, and penalties. I feel like those are three of the biggest sore spots Texas has going right now. If you had to rank them, what would they be?
If we're talking about those three specifically,
you can add in one of another one that you think also needs to be addressed.
Arch's confidence is one without question.
I figured that fell under passing game a little bit.
Yeah. So if we're putting that under passing game, the passing game is definitely one. I'd say run game 2 and penalties 3, CJ, just because this team continues to be undisciplined and commit penalties. So I don't know why I'm going to drive myself crazy thinking that's going to change. Like even if the offensive issues didn't exist, like I'd still be extremely salty about the penalties. Like you can't shoot yourself in the foot. And yeah, you can get by against UTEP and Sam Houston and San Jose State. Exhibit A in the opener. You do that stuff against Ohio State, that gets you beat. If you do that stuff in the swamp on October 4th, it gets you beat. Do it at Red River, it gets you beat. So I know that needs to change. It's got to be better, but I have no reason to believe at this point that it will.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Arch getting right has to be one. Your offense goes as he goes. But I'm with you. I think it's a very distant number 2 from the rest of the bunch. So Arch, and then right below him is that run game. And then a very distant third with whatever else, right? I would even throw Colin Simmons getting right into that conversation. But look, I think you have to have that confidence up front too. And Texas hasn't been able to run the football to what the expectation was. And the expectation is that you have good running backs. Let them find some slivers, find some creases. And again, I think the expectation coming into the season was that Arch would carry your offense for the most part. Well, you can certainly take a lot off of his plate and kind of relinquish some of the weight on his shoulders if you can run for 6, 7, 8 yards consistently through the ground. And Texas, they've had moments. I don't want to say that it's been a complete dud so far. They've had moments, but it's been very inconsistent. And shoot, I think we'd all agree to say we'd like to see a little bit more success on those 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1s, goal line to go situations in which it's been an issue for 3 years now.
CJ, I got a couple actually one interesting run game tidbit. Would you like it? I don't know. You may have dug this up already. I was looking at missed tackles forced today, just digging through some PFF numbers. These are your top 3 on the team in terms of missed tackles forced. Arch Manning is your leader with 9. Jarrett Gibson, who we've seen in the last 2 games, with 5. And then James Simon with 5. And all 5 of those were in the last ball game against UTEP. I need to see more James Simon running the football.
I agree.
With all due respect to Jarrett Gibson and Christian Clark, James Simon just seems to have a better feel for it right now. I think he does the best job of maximizing runs. So that's why, run game, I'm not saying James Simon's going to come in and have, a freshman All-American year. But of the 3 healthy backs right now, I think he gives your offensive line a little more margin for error because he does the best job of maximizing runs. I've beaten that drum all week, and I will continue to beat it. I want to see more of James Simon on Saturday than the other 2 running backs.
Yeah. I'm with you, and I do think that you're going to see a lot of him. What's going to be interesting is which of these backs gets kind of that workload in the passing game. Can any of the 3 right now pass protect? Haven't seen it. Which of those guys can be a true threat, like a Jaden Blue out of the backfield? We saw a 23-yard catch and run from Christian Clark, and I would imagine that James Simon would have that in his game as well. And so can one of those 2 separate themselves? Because for the strengths of Jarrett Gibson, I would say that the pass catching, the receiving, kind of the in the route ability is a little bit lower down the list versus what he brings to the table on a given snap. So yeah, I want to see those guys in space because that's one of Sark's MOs. He used Bijan as kind of a slot wide receiver at times. Obviously, we know the wheel routes to Jaden Blue. Trey Wisner is, one of those screen fiends, if you will. What can this group of guys do when you have your number 1 and 2 sidelined?
I think one of the biggest things that if you can draw a positive from having these pretty minor injuries early on is getting to see a player like James Simon and kind of see what he has, because you might have not seen him quite this early if you had all of your starters in still, especially when you're struggling against a team. Hopefully you wouldn't be struggling quite as much against a team like UTEP if you have a Wisner that's still healthy. But he looks very physical, which is something I think is desperately needed in the run game right now. For me, my ranking is pretty similar, but I'm adding one in there. Passing game that ties in with Arch's confidence. I think once Arch's confidence gets fixed, I think the passing game gets fixed. Like I said yesterday, just from watching that Mississippi State game last year, he walked with a different kind of swagger. He was hitting his receivers. He wasn't throwing the ball into the dirt. He didn't look shaken in the pocket. Second would be the third down conversions. I desperately need to see that get better. I looked at the ranking in third down conversions, 125th in third down conversions, 3 of 42. So that I think that kind of makes me want to throw up a little bit. But yeah, so third down conversions, then the run game, and then penalties. I will say, when I was looking at the penalty statistics, Texas is tied with another school in the state, A&M, in penalties, in case you didn't know. So the Aggies are also struggling in that category, which is interesting to me. Apparently we all saw that missed holding call on the last drive of the Notre Dame game, but they were called for significantly more penalties than Notre Dame in that game overall. So I thought that was
you play a road game at Notre Dame, that's going to skew your penalty total for the year.
Yeah. But apparently the refs were on the Aggie side, according to the entire internet.
You know what's interesting with A&M? I want to talk about the run game just a little bit, because I think coming into the year, A&M was kind of pegged to have one of the top offensive lines in the SEC. And, while that could still be true, their run game is pretty underwhelming so far, right? Again, having Le'Veon Moss back, having Reuben Owens return, seeing E.J. Smith kind of take that next step. You kind of thought that, okay, that would be the strength given the threat of Marcel Reed's legs. You could basically read option teams to death going down the field. Well, that's not really been their MO so far. They sit pretty low when it comes to running back rush yards. Only 344 this year, only 220 out of after contact. Both of those are bottom 5 in the SEC. They only have 8 missed forced tackles from their running backs this year as well. And that's the second lowest in the entire SEC. So, look, injuries are tough. Texas dealing with that right now with Trey Wisner sideline, with C.J. Baxter not really returning to form from his freshman year, and then obviously getting dinged up again. But right now that run game is leaving a lot to be desired, I would say. Yet, I think their quarterbacks played well. And it's the most praised 17 of 47 passing performance I've ever seen.
He's throwing them bombs, CJ. Marcel Reed throwing them
guys
bombs
on the outside. It helps when you can get guys. When you get the ball to those guys, it helps. Those guys are freaks.
I think I know your answer to this question. Oh, yikes. I think I know your answer to this question, but if you had to pick an offense to have this season so far, would it be Texas's offense? I think we all know it's not going to be that one so far. OU's or A&M's, and I think we know CJ's answer to this question.
Well, look, all three can't run the football. Not consistently. Texas actually has the best run game of the three, and look, we talk about it. What travels? It's your defense and it's your run game. Well, look, Oklahoma, is the team with the fewest missed tackles forced by their running backs this year. Oklahoma, on top of that, very low. They have the fewest yards after contact by running backs. They have the fewest rush yards in total by running backs in the SEC this year. Their run game is completely non-existent, but they have a quarterback that's very dynamic. They have a quarterback that can get the ball down the field. I would take John Mateer over Marcel Reed and Arch Manning right now. I don't think that's crazy to say.
Yeah, I think that's really the thing. Like, if I look at those three offenses, give me John Mateer, and then it doesn't really matter. Like, you can mix and match parts of the other three, all three offenses, but Mateer's the difference. Like that's seriously, not much else to say.
And I do let me be clear. I do think Arch Manning, if he gets right, has the highest ceiling, given the pieces around him. Hopefully, some of these guys returning to the offense continues to get back to where we've seen him in the past. But right now, Mateer is the best quarterback of those three, and I think Marcel Reed is a distant third.
Yeah, because we're talking about like based on what we've seen so far. Yeah, I would take Mateer over Arch, but I agree with you, CJ. And again, like I said this last night, I'll say it again. Like before, I just completely discard the Texas offense and just say it's broken, it's garbage, like they're done. Like I at least want to see, hey, what does this thing look like when you've got all the pieces to the puzzle? Because you haven't had that so far. And I mean, I honestly don't know if you're going to get it at this point, just because we'll see Emmett Mosley when we see him. Sounds like you're trending to maybe get DeAndre Moore back this week. I don't think you'll get Trey Wisner back, but maybe the Oklahoma game is going to be the first time where we really see what this offense looks like.
Yeah. One other note I wanted to make, I think this is a really important question from Nathan. Can he survive? Look, he had 19 rush attempts against Michigan. That's a lot, right? You normally don't like to see your quarterbacks getting hit that often by defenses of that caliber. And we've had that conversation. How often should Arch run the football? Well, 7 design runs is the most a Sarkisian coach quarterback has had since 2015. Rod Babers had that stat earlier. I thought it was great. He ended up having 9 on the day, 7 of which by design. Again, that's a lot of rush attempts for a Sark quarterback. And I'm still over here saying, look, I'd like to get him in the teens against some of those really tough defensive games, Oklahoma and A&M and Georgia. But that's going to cause a lot of wear and tear. So can he go for 20? Probably not. Can Mateer go for 20? Probably not. So this weekend is going to be really interesting for Oklahoma to see how they use that quarterback run game, how they use any of that run game against Auburn. And ultimately, I think that will tip their hand just a bit in terms of how they'll come out swinging against Texas and the rest of the SEC.
You saying that, like, I'm smiling because it reinforces that I'm not off my rocker when I how much I appreciate Sam Ehlinger and his toughness. Like running the ball 21 freaking times in that Sugar Bowl against Georgia, where you're just running into the teeth of that defense over and over and over again. There was the OU game in 19 where I know he was sacked 9 times. It was 23 official rushing attempts. I was like, dude, they're going to get Sam killed. Like he may have to leave the field on a stretcher. But just reinforces, man, just how freaking tough Sam Ehlinger was.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this isn't the Mateer live stream, so
that's why I brought it back to Sam.
Okay, thank you. But we'll hear a little bit more from your questions after we hear from our friends at Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
Yeah, I got my Sam Ehlinger jersey for y'all.
There you go.
Let me get that framed, but yes.
I got an Arch Manning one of those, but it got washed after Ohio State. We had to get all the bad energy. I also have a button-up shirt with his student ID picture all over it. I got gifted one of those. I'll break out that once he has a cohesive football game. And right now, I'm not very proud to wear that.
Yeah, Sam, Casey Hampton, Deontay Foreman. I got quite a few that need to get on the wall. But yeah, Sam will be on the wall at some point.
I got a Quinn jersey. I'm proud to wear that one. We got a question from Rocky. We were talking a little bit about Colin Simmons getting right. Zena needs more snaps. He's outplayed Simmons up to this point, in my opinion.
I don't want to take Colin Simmons off the field. Like Sark is used like you use the baseball analogy, you use the basketball shooter analogy. Like it's going to happen for Colin Simmons at some point. I just want to keep giving him at bats. Just keep giving him snaps to get there.
Yeah, because what does that do on the other side when Colin Simmons is on the field, right? It allows that one-on-one. It allows teams to focus on one side, open up the other. I will say I thought Zena is off to a really solid start this year.
Yeah.
On top of that, I'd love to see some more Brad Spence. You know, I thought earlier in this season he gave you a really solid win rate off the edge. You know, he had four true pressures on the quarterback. You know, ended up getting half of a sack. Did so in only about 20 snaps. So look, there's success right there, Jeff. You mentioned James Simon and his missed tackles force. He had 5 and 16 carries. I like that. That's a good indicator of what's to come when you give him a bigger workload and volume share. For Brad Spence, I think he's another guy. What Zena does very well, and what's probably the most underrated part of his game right now, his run defense is outstanding at the moment.
Yeah, I think with Colin too, you hit on it a little bit, CJ. Like his presence out there is going to open up things for everybody else. Like you have to occupy him with multiple defenders. So I just think like we've seen the couple times where he's been single blocked or had an opportunity. Like he almost had a safety against Ohio State. He came really close to getting one against UTEP. Now, again, I know close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, but still, like he's not. I just don't think he's that far off. I'm not going to lose faith in a guy that like I really believe has the potential to be like a top 5 pick in the draft type guy. By the way, I got some numbers for this weekend. Sam Houston State, out of 136 FBS offensive lines, they're tied for 108th in the country in pass blocking efficiency, according to Pro Football Focus. They've allowed 33 pressures. Only 9 FBS offensive lines have allowed more. So we talk about it being a week where the offense can get right. I think it's a week where maybe the pass rush can get right.
I like that. I like that set, especially up front, you know, in that interior, because look, Hero Kanu, he's been a threat. Murad Watson, he's been a threat. If that's the case, Texas obviously will get another threat with Alex January coming back, but that's the case where you can start pressuring from the interior the same way Texas was able to with Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat. That then puts a lot of fear, not just in the quarterback, but on those tackles, because shoot, pressure up front on the interior that's the worst for a quarterback because you got nowhere to go.
Yeah, y'all think this is a week we finally see a sack from Colin Simmons? I think there's a week to do it.
Yeah. I'll put him on the prediction sheet.
All right. Get y'all's questions in. Any thoughts on different faces on the O-line, or has the staff nailed down their best and need to just get them to gel?
I think that's what they were trying to do, Jeff, this past week. You know, start giving all 85 snaps, keeping basically the entire offensive line out there until Cole Hudson went down with a little rolled ankle. Was these guys have to gel. And they did so because they went back to consecutive run plays over and over, saying, hey, against different fronts, this is how you have to play it. Next series, same play. That's how they would play it. So you saw little growth. But I can't help but wonder if this is the starting 5. I can't help but wonder what a Connor Robertson-led center position would be with Cole Hudson moving out to left guard. I mean, it hasn't been pretty really at all this year. So, I don't know. But Kyle Flood, Steve Sarkisian, they know best.
You're reading my mind because I was thinking the same thing. Like, I think your best combination might be to move Cole Hudson back to guard and put Connor Robertson in his lineup at center. I would like to see Nick Brooks get some run.
Yes, that too.
Man, I know you may get more predictable, but man, I just feel like if you want to just run the football downhill or attempt to, I think Neto gives you a better chance to do that maybe than Connor Stroh does. But there's a reason why the coaches trust Connor Stroh more at this point. I just, you know, depending on Cole Hudson's availability, if he's good to go, if I'm Kyle Flood, I may just roll the dice and say, hey, let's just take a look at this 5 and just see what it looks like with Hudson moving to left guard and Robertson at center.
That's what this game is for. Try new things, see if it works. And look, if they come out and start running for about 7 or 8 a carry, I think it solves an issue pretty clearly.
We got a question from Sam, man. There's been a lot of negative talk, which, I mean, there's not a lot of positive to talk about this offense. But what do you think this offense does do well right now? I mean, Arch runs it okay. We've seen that.
I think the quarterback run game, which I think we need to see more. Sarkis talked about that. They're actually really good at the deep ball. If you look at the parts of the field where Arch is best, it's throws 20+ yards down the field. I think it's interesting. Rod and I talk about this. We recorded Football Theory today for tomorrow. When you look at James Simon, like, I don't know if for a young running back, he's actually a really good zone runner. So in as much zone as Sark likes to run, you may have found something there. And again, that's another reason why I want to see James Simon more on Saturday. If Wisner's out, we know Baxter's not going to play. Of the other 3 healthy backs, give me more James Simon. So I think the deep ball, the quarterback run game, and James Simon with the run game. Also, 12 personnel, CJ, I don't know if you got the numbers in front of you, but like in terms of explosive play rate, like the most explosive you've been this season is when you're in 12 personnel. And I think that goes back to something we talked about a little bit ago, like earlier in the show. CJ, I don't remember if you said it or Amanda, if you said it, but we're talking about pass protection, and like CJ Baxter is the best pass protecting back on the offense. Like I don't think anybody would debate that, but with him out, like what do? I think you have all the more reason at this point to run 12 personnel. And, it's different when you're asking those tight ends to basically be running backs and help be pass protectors, leave one of them in the pass protect and, trying to push somebody, reestablish the line of scrimmage in the run game. So I think, developing an identity in 12 personnel quarterback run game, and the deep ball, and maybe your zone run game with James Simon. CJ, I know I probably took all your talking points. Sorry about that. But
well, you missed one. I mean, probably one of the biggest is, making sure the defense is ready at a moment's notice, whether it's a 3-and-out or a turnover. I think that these guys are pretty clearly ready to go now on a given snap. So, the list is much longer on the other side of this conversation, but hey, the season's not done yet. It's sucks that that's kind of the mentality I'm taking with this offense. But the one thing I'm cautiously optimistic, and I'm not buying the idea, Jeff and Amanda, that Sark has kept his playbook pretty closed. I'm not buying that, because I think at this point, quarterback confidence is more important than saving whatever plays are still in the chamber for you. I think that there's value more in the swagger and the confidence of your entire offensive unit than a design play against Oklahoma, right? I just don't buy that right now. But the reason for confidence is an improvement is I don't think Sark wants to stay in 12 personnel. I don't think he does. Do y'all? I don't think he
but this goes back to the talking point, CJ, I've had all week. Like, I understand what Sark wants this offense to be. It can't be right now what he wants it to be. He's got to figure out what it can be, the best way right now they need to go about things. Maybe it can change later, but this is what you need to be right now.
Yeah. And again, it's survive to the next week. It's not your prettiest, but look, there's a reason why we haven't seen 12 personnel as consistently as we've seen it over the past 3 weeks, right? And it's increased each and every weekend. I have the numbers here. I'll pull them up. 12 personnel, it's gone from 25% to 33.8% to 37% over the first 3 weeks of the season. You're seeing that steady incline. Obviously, no DeAndre Moore has certainly played a big role in that, but ultimately the strength of what you expected Arch Manning to be was a guy that can sling it across the field. And if that comes back out at some point for Arch, look, it's not going to be 12 personnel that he is joined on the field with, right? It's going to be Livingston. It's going to be Ryan Wingo. It's going to be DeAndre Moore. Who knows when the Sasquatch will get on the field and become a part of this offense as well, but they want to huck it. They want to spread it out. Look at Sark's best offenses, right? It's not ground and pound. It's not looking like Michigan State and Brian Lewerke. No, it's those high-flying offenses at Alabama, right? So until Texas has some actual weapons at wide receiver outside of a Parker Livingston, then you're just kind of stuck, right? You're just going around in the revolving door wondering why you can't get into the hotel lobby.
And by the Sasquatch, he means Emmett Mosley, if you did not get that reference, but from yesterday.
Yeah. CJ, I want to go back to the point real quick you made, though. Amanda, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you're good.
About his Sark saving stuff, because, I mean, it seemed like every time we're on a live stream, like that pops up, or it's not even a question almost. It's almost a statement. If that's the case, like, let's say if Sark really is holding back, like, we're going to see more motions and shifts and more bells and whistles and, diversified personnel groupings and formations, whatever. I'm sorry if he's holding back. That's incredibly irresponsible because to me, from the outside looking in, you tanked your quarterback's confidence for what? To be able to hold back a few things against Florida?
Mm-hmm.
Like that just, I don't know. Maybe he is, but if he is, it's
malpractice.
It's just incredibly irresponsible. I just don't know. I don't know why you would do that. It's a roll of the dice that maybe that's why he's making $10 million a year and I'm sitting here. It's just a roll of the dice I wouldn't do. Like, I don't understand it.
Yeah, aside from confidence, also getting to the point where your fans are booing your quarterback. I don't think that's really a great indication of where the confidence is. The confidence is not in the fans and it's not in the quarterback, and that's not where you want it to be three games into the season.
No. The other thing too, Amanda, on that, like we went down this road in 2019 with the Tom Herman offense. And like, if you go back to the Texas LSU game in 19, like the game plan was pretty vanilla. Like they didn't have a tons of motions and shifts. It was just kind of like, hey, here's our base offense. Let's just go see where we stack up against LSU. And we saw what the offense did. And that's why at the time I was like, man, can you imagine like once they build on this and really we start seeing, they get into more diverse personnel groupings and start using more motions and shifts and bunch formations and things like that. Like, man, this offense is going to be great. But that wasn't like the start of something. That's just kind of what the offense was. Like, no, we just want to try to play base offense and just try to say our talent's better. Well, at some point, the talent's going to equal out and you had no schematic advantage. I don't know. I can't wrap my head around Sark thinking that way.
All right, we'll take some more of your questions after we hear from thank our friends from Vonline. You've got to get from one city to another, and like always, it's a toss-up. Do you deal with the airport chaos and hope your flight isn't delayed, or do you brace yourself for hours behind the wheel, battling traffic and burning a day? Now there's a third option, and it's better in every way. You arrive at a luxury hotel terminal, no TSA lines, no long-term parking lots, just a seamless boarding experience that takes minutes, not hours. You settle into one of 22 oversized first-class seats with a 140-degree recline, leg rests, and a cabin attendant serving complimentary snacks, beverages, and on select trips, full meals. Need to relax, lean back, and enjoy the ride. Want to stay productive? There's high-speed Wi-Fi and power at every seat. Fall travel is booking fast. Reserve now for October trips to Texas versus Oklahoma and Dallas, F1 and ACL in Austin, or college football weekends in Nashville, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston. Vonline connects Austin, Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Nashville, Atlanta, Memphis, and now Knoxville, Tennessee, The Woodlands, Texas, and Plano, Texas. Visit Vonline.com and use code OTF25 to save $20 on your first ride. Vonline, elevated regional bus transportation. I also wanted to bring up your point about the Sasquatches. Do we have any updates on some of these injuries, including Mosley? I don't think there's an update on Mosley from what I've seen, still pegging for Florida. But are there any other updates on other players we might be seeing again this weekend?
Yeah, DeAndre Moore was practicing today. Trey Wisner was not. So there's an update on the two. I don't believe we'll see Trey Wisner for the third straight game. We'll see about DeAndre Moore, who is working back as well. No new news on Emmett Mosley again. So, put on your orange vest and get in the woods and go see if he's real, basically. But I guess that's where we're sitting right now. Cole Hudson's still a bit hobbled. We'll see what the starting five is for the Texas offensive line. Right now, I do not know one way or the other if he's expected to play. We will hear from Steve Sarkisian tomorrow morning for his Thursday availability, in which I'm sure there will be some level of an update from Coach Sark when it comes to injuries, availability, and everything else in between.
Yeah, he was on the SEC teleconference today and was asked specifically about Alex January, Trey Wisner, and DeAndre Moore. And if he expected to have any of those guys back this weekend, he said a couple of those guys. So I know January, we were expecting that to be a multi-week deal, probably not until Florida. We know CJ Baxter's out this week. Latest on Emmett Mosley is it still looks like maybe Florida is when he's going to make his debut. So yeah, it could be another week. Again, with the running back situation, I'm going to be quite perturbed if James Simon isn't featured very heavily on Saturday.
All right, we got some time for a couple more questions, so get those questions in, super chats. Jump to the top of the list. We got a question here from Alan. OTF, do we see the pony package this year, or is a line too inconsistent / RBs not good enough yet?
I think there's perhaps a lack of meshing with the running backs there, Jeff. I don't know. Maybe that's the holdback from Sark in his offense that we'll see later on this year. Because look, again, I'll cite Rod Babers. The pony package gives you a pretty successful rate per snap, right? You end up having a lot of yards gained on your average snaps in that formation, but all at the same time, do you trust basically 3 guys playing for the first time in their Texas careers and another guy coming back from injury for the first time in 2 years? So I'm not sure that you have that gelling of the running back skill set as well. Because again, the pony package works best when you have 2 guys that are threats, not just an inside or outside zone, but threats in the passing game. So I don't know. I almost feel like the Texas pony package is still just a different variation of itself when Ryan Niblett's on the field.
Yeah, this would be a wrinkle that if Sark is holding back, there's a valid reason why, because I think CJ Baxter has to be a part of that mix. I think for the pony package to work, to maximize it, you've got to have 2 backs, like you said, CJ, that have different skill sets. Like, granted, Bijan and Roschon were great players, but Roschon could function like as a lead blocker and a pass protector. Baxter gives you that other option when it was Baxter and Brooks. Last year we saw it a little bit last year, but, Blue and Wisner were diverse enough that you could use it. I just think if you're going to have it this year, since you don't have that dynamic receiving threat that you had with Jaden Blue, I think CJ Baxter has to be a part of that mix because he's such a good pass protector.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that's something you'd see in the near future with the injuries, especially currently hampering the offense. Is this Saturday Sunbelt Billy's last game at UF, or does he have a chance to save his job with a win over Texas?
If they get run out of the stadium, it might be all she wrote.
I bet he sees Texas no matter what. I don't think it matters. Mm-hmm.
Who do they play this week?
Miami.
Oh, Miami.
But I mean, think about it. It's week 4.
And it's also it's Miami. You're probably going to lose to Miami on the road.
They were in this position very similarly a year ago, and they turned it around and went 7-5, or it was a season in which you look back and said that was a success, one in which that they probably didn't have much hope for. Again, we've talked about this, Jeff. The only difference from this year to last year is you could then plug in DJ Lagway and say there's the hope, right? You don't have that hope because your hope just threw 5 interceptions in Death Valley. So look, I don't think he's getting canned right away, but I also didn't expect to see 2 coaches fired 3 weeks into the season.
I think the likelihood of it increases because they've got a bye week next week like Texas. So I think you would make the move on Sunday, establish your interim head coach, and then kind of put everything you've got into the Texas game and the rest of your SEC schedule. Well, I guess you got Florida State at the end, but yeah. I think, if it's competitive though, maybe, but yeah, like if they get anything in the ballpark with that mud hole stomping Miami put on them last year in Gainesville, then yeah, I think that'll be the end of the line for Billy Nathan.
From Sunbelt Billy to buyout Billy, sign me up. Shoot.
Well, and that's the other thing too. Like you got to figure out, okay, and I'm sure, Florida's got enough folks with deep pockets that they've probably already got the buyout money lined up. But hey, go ahead and get a head start on who your next coach is. Now, the thing you get into there is Scott Strickland, the AD, going to be part of the group that hires the next football coach. Probably not, because you only get 1, maybe 2 chances as an AD to get that right. So, yeah, it's times are hard right now for us in the realm of Texas, but at least we're not down the road Florida is at this point, because that is a road that sucks because there is no hope.
Yeah, and that schedule, it's pretty ugly. They got us, they got A&M, they got Mississippi State, they got Georgia, and then they got Kentucky, but 3 of those games not super winnable and especially following it up from Miami. So not very many winnable games for them. I had a different question here from Daniel. This is a good one. In the NIL portal era, will guys have longer leashes?
I think it actually works the opposite way.
Yeah.
Because you should be able to construct a team out of the portal through high school recruiting. You should be able to get immediate help that you otherwise would not have out of basically the pure necessity to get your guys into the system, build your program the way that you want. Look, if you can go do that immediately out of the portal, and we've seen teams do that. Look at Indiana, right? They were just basically took an entire G5 team, moved it to Bloomington, and said, "Oh, we're in the playoffs now," because they got a coach that gets it. So no, I think it actually speeds up the process. Again, do I expect coaches to be fired week 3 into the season? Probably not, but I guess if you cut the weight of what you believe to be a dead coach, then hey, look forward to the future, get your guy in the building, or at least start looking elsewhere and saying, all right, what do we need to go build a team that can compete week 1?
Yeah, it's I think with the 2 that have been fired, though, with Virginia Tech and UCLA, like it was painfully obvious that those 2 needed to move on and start the search for your next head coach. Now, the difference with those 2 schools in Florida, there should be a tier of coaches unattainable for Virginia Tech and UCLA that Florida, in theory, could go get. But yeah, I don't. Assuming Daniel's talking about coaches and not players, yeah, the leashes, I think it's gonna be shorter for coaches. The problem you run into, and again, you may run into some P5s that have this problem. Do you have enough money for the buyout? I think, CJ, that's one thing that's going to end up changing from all this. Like, you can't redo the contracts that have already been done, but I think coaches' contracts going forward are going to be, you'll see a lot less, Charlie Weiss sweetheart deals where you're getting paid tens of millions of dollars to just not coach. Like, I think those things are going to change because they pretty much have to now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you can look at schools like Texas Tech, OU, just building complete rosters out of the portal. You have the tools available to you to build those things. I mean, I feel like if Venables didn't do something with the team to revamp that OU team, because last year, Texas fans are mad after 3 games that are 2-1. Imagine what OU fans would be acting like if they had another season like last year. There's no excuse for it. I feel like Venables would have been gone if they had another season like last year.
What's funny is the success or lack thereof, for Oklahoma this year. A lot of that will be pinned on Jim Nagy's hire. And I think Texas fans everywhere would look back and say, that's fine. Keep him around.
Yeah, because whether Brent Venables is the head coach in 2026, 2027, Jim Nagy's there for the long haul. And hey, I may look really bad. OU fans may mark the tape and play this back and laugh at me, and that's fine. But if you've got a dynamic quarterback, that can cover up a lot of your issues. So we'll find out in time how good Oklahoma really is, but John Mateer's done a really good job of masking some deficiencies that were pretty glaring last year. And CJ just pointed out that are probably still there.
I'm supposed to say that line, Jeff.
I know, but I figured I'd take a little bit off your plate, though.
All
It's
right.
kind of team player I am, dog.
All right, we'll hear from our last sponsor, and then we'll get back to a couple more of your questions. Jeff, I'll let you take it away with Hayes City Store.
One of my favorite places in the greater Austin area. There are very few restaurants that once you go to, you just know right away it's a special place, and Hayes City Store is definitely one of those places. It's scratch-made Texas comfort food. They've got their famous truck stop enchiladas, the award-winning chicken fried steak, homemade desserts. Go get that key lime pie. Trust me, you will thank me later. All of it's delicious and made from scratch. They've also got live music 6 nights a week, 50 beer taps, ice cold long necks, tasty margaritas. They've got 11 TVs in their ice house. That is a perfect game day setup for Saturday or Sunday. They've got that Sunday brunch from 10 to 3. Hayes City Store is also dog friendly. They've got a tree net and plenty of space for the kids to run around. So bring your whole crew out to Hayes City Store. For more information, check out the website at hayescitystortx.com. Hayes City Store, it is uniquely Texas.
All right, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and I'm curious as to what you guys' take is on it, just based on what we saw in the last game. Texas dude asked, 1st and drive, 4th and 3 at 38. Do we go for it or field goal?
I think look, Sark. We know Sark likes being aggressive. It goes back to the flow of the game. From the 38 or in, look, you're looking at a 55-yard field goal or in. I think that again kind of falls into no man's land. Me personally, I'd like to go for it anywhere from the 30 to the 40. Texas had Cameron Dicker, the NFL's most accurate kicker of all time, and those college kicks are tough from that distance, right? So I'm thinking from the 30 is really where you start to wonder, does Texas need to take the points every time?
Yeah, pretty much. I think once you get 30 and in, that's where the 30-yard line and in, that's where I think you need to take the points.
Now, beyond the 30, how many yards do you think on a fourth down would you need to say, let's just kick this versus going for it on fourth? Obviously, the game situation matters a little bit here. But, I mean, what we said yesterday was it would be nice to end some of these drives with some level of confidence, some level of high fives. Yeah, there were still points on that drive versus just, well, there's another empty drive. They get the ball.
I feel like 4th and 3, CJ, your playbook is still pretty wide open. At least it should be. And granted, for whatever that's worth with where the Texas offense is right now. But I think once you get to 4th and 4, 4th and 5, I mean, I know it seems like, well, Jeff, what's the difference in a yard? Like a yard can feel like a mile when you're talking about the difference between 4th and 4, 4th and 3.
Yeah.
So I think once you get once it's past 3, I think 3 and in, you're strongly consider. I think once you get to 4th and 4, I don't, because at that point you're more likely to throw the ball. And right now, do you trust Arch to execute that? Do you trust his passing game to execute that? I don't know how Sark could.
Shoot, I've never advocated for this before, but go full Iowa. I think that's a better indication of where things are with this Texas defense, and
Dog, you never go full Iowa.
I don't want to go full Iowa, but shoot, I mean, if your decision-making at quarterback is what we saw on a 4th and 2, when you got a guy open on the rub route and you end up reversing field and throwing an interception, look, I think relying on that defense is best case.
This is one of the reasons why I used to like, Mac Brown used to have a skill guy be the holder on field goals and extra points. That way, if it's like 4th and 2 and like, oh yeah, we're going to kick it. Nope, just snap it to the holder. He gets it and, bulls his way forward and gets the first down. So I don't know. Jeff Banks likes the punter being the holder on kicks. So it is what it is, I guess. But yeah, I think once you get past 3 yards to go for your to-go distance, and honestly, I mean, I think probably the book, the binder, as Tom Herman calls it, Sark calls it the book, they probably tell you once you get to like 4th and 4, 4th and 5, like your odds probably significantly decrease.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it also depends a lot on game situation, but I agree. I feel like with the way things have been looking, I'd like some points eventually instead of just empty drives. All right. Do you got some free time tonight, CJ? You don't watch some Blazing Saddles?
We'll see. I
Don't
watched.
you have one movie to review for us?
Yeah, I watched No Country for Old Men last night. Good movie.
You seem very passionate.
Good movie. Good bad guy. That was a good bad guy.
Okay, movie reviews by CJ.
You just need to start going down the Coen Brothers catalog. Raising Arizona, Big Lebowski. Just start going down the whole list.
Yeah,
I'll put it on the list. I don't think I'll have time tonight. I got some packing to do, but maybe for the flight. He fell asleep during it.
I did not.
It's his midday nap time.
Yeah, no, good movie.
All right, well. I mean, if there's maybe they're making another Netflix documentary and it'll be about Mateer this time. Or have you sent in that request to Netflix yet?
We'll see. Maybe I need to check into that. What I will be doing after this actually is going and watching the Texas volleyball game.
There you go. That's a much better thing to watch than what is that? What's that?
17-9 lead.
Nice.
They're rolling right now.
Is TCU ranked?
I do not know.
All right, well, go Texas volleyball. All right. That's about all the time we have. Make sure you tune into Coffee and Football tomorrow morning. Oh, the F1 movie. I'll put that on the list. I'm actually going to Monaco next week. So that's like car racing, right? Grand Prix.
Yeah.
That's similar. All right. Well, I will not be here next week because I will be out of town, but that doesn't mean that OTF hates me and got rid of me. So be back in 2 weeks after the bye week, a very long bye week for us. So for On Texas Football, oh wait.
Matthew.
All right. We got enough on the tier. We'll change the subject. We'll close it out here. For On Texas Football, this Longhorn live stream, I'm Amanda Atwell. That's CJ Vogel, and that's Jeff Howe. Have a great night, and hook 'em horns.
Welcome.
Welcome.